What happens when a breakaway state, ignored for decades, suddenly becomes a US military priority? 34 years after it declared independence, Somaliland says recognition is finally on the horizon and the US might be leading the way. Hi, I'm Jalene Tesfaye, and this is Analytica Today. For over 3 decades, Somaliland operated in a diplomatic gray zone, stable, democratic, but unrecognized. Now, with shifting US interest in Africa, the self-declared republic says it may finally get it. Washington could be preparing to recognize Somaliland. So, what's behind this sudden shift? How does it tie to AFRICOM's uncertain future, and what does this say about the US's changing strategy in Africa? For 34 years, Somaliland has run its own show, government, elections, even passports, since breaking away from Somalia in 1991 amid a brutal civil war. But the world, including the US, stuck to the One Somalia policy, recognizing only Mogadishu's central government, however weak. Why? Mainly fear. Recognizing Somaliland might trigger a domino effect, inviting other separatist movements across Africa to follow suit. But now, the calculus seems to be changing. Somaliland's President Abdirahman Abdullahi recently said recognition is on the horizon. And that's not just political talk. US officials and military delegations have visited Hargeisa. The conversation is real. At the center of it all, Berbera. Berbera is a port city on the Gulf of Aden, right across from Yemen and not far from the Red Sea shipping lanes now under threat. With instability growing around Djibouti, where the US operates Camp Lemonnier, and China growing its influence there, Washington needs alternatives. Somaliland is offering one. Sources say the Trump team is considering a deal, build a base at Berbera, and in return, recognize Somaliland. This would represent a dramatic departure from the US One Somalia policy, but it fits a broader trend. The US is re-evaluating AFRICOM, its Africa Command. General Michael Langley, AFRICOM's commander, recently said the US is shifting from long-term development to burden sharing. In other words, local partners must handle their own security. Somaliland, in contrast to Mogadishu, is saying, we're ready. But recognition is not just about a port or a military deal. It's a geopolitical earthquake. Somalia sees any recognition of Somaliland as an existential threat to its sovereignty. Ethiopia, Egypt, and Gulf powers also have stakes in how this plays out. Ethiopia has already inked a port access deal with Somaliland, prompting outrage in Mogadishu. Cairo, locked in a Nile water dispute with Ethiopia, has thrown its weight behind Somalia. Now, imagine the US stepping in to recognize Somaliland. That could set off a chain reaction not just in the Horn, but across the continent. South Cameroon, Biafra, Azawad, all watching closely. So, is this the start of a new wave of African fragmentation, or a recognition of political realities ignored for too long? Here's the deeper question. What should take precedence, unity at all costs, or functionality that works? Somaliland says it has earned its place at the table. It hosts thousands of refugees from Syria, Sudan, and even Palestine. What should take precedence, unity at all costs, or functionality that works? Somaliland says it has earned its place at the table. It hosts thousands of refugees from Syria, Sudan, and even Palestine. It maintains peace, holds elections, and offers a security cooperation. Yet, without recognition, it cannot get international funding. It's locked out of global development aid, trade deals, and diplomacy. Meanwhile, Somalia continues to struggle with corruption, conflict, and rising Al-Shabaab attacks, even after decades of US support. The Trump administration is reportedly growing frustrated. There are talks of abandoning the current approach altogether. And that brings us to today, when Washington's pivot in Africa, AFRICOM's recalibration, and Somaliland's strategic offer are all converging. What changed in US policy? 3 things: Donald Trump, security needs, and the fading patience with dysfunctional alliances. In that vacuum, Somaliland is stepping up, ready to partner, ready to deliver. But recognition is not a small thing. It challenges the idea of a united Somalia. It opens the door to secession across Africa. It complicates regional balances. Still, for a continent often treated as a pawn in global games, maybe this is the moment to decide its own rules. So, what do you think? Should Somaliland be recognized, or is the price too high? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe if this helped you make sense of the moment. I'm Jalene Tesfaye, and this is Analytica Today.